Hey everyone, a new version of OpenRCT2 has been released, and it's version 0.4.16. And the developers have called this version Brave Sir Robin, the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot.
Brave Sir Robin ran away. No! Bravely ran away, away. I didn't!
Now in this version, quite a lot of bug fixes have been done, but we've also gotten some exciting new changes and some new track elements as well. So in this video I will go with you over some of the most exciting changes of this new release. Okay, for the first change, we could already build vertical loops on wooden coasters, but extra elements have now been included in the game. So as you can see now, we can also build medium loops, or we could even build large loops. I think this is a really exciting change. I think it would look really good on your Son of Beast clone. Okay, the wooden coaster is not the only coaster type that got new track elements. Over here we see the corkscrew coaster, the hyper coaster and the laydown coaster. Now if we go into the build window for the corkscrew coaster, you can also now see large half corkscrews. Something else which you will see is these large diagonal turns, which is also a really nice addition. And we even have these weird banked to sloped turns. Not really sure if the ride already had these, but I noticed them now. And yeah, these same large diagonal sloped turns have now also been added to the hyper coaster, and they've been added to the laydown coaster as well. But something even more beautiful happens if we turn on the cheat to enable all drawable track pieces. If I now just delete this little part, we can now go in the special menu. You can now see here that we have barrel rolls, we even have inline twists. We go up, we have large half loops, we have 0G rolls, and we even have the large 0G rolls. Now, and that's not even all. We can now even go vertical, and then we also have quarter loops. This ride has gotten a lot of love, and I really enjoy seeing all these new track elements on this ride. There's probably even a few track elements that I forgot. But yeah, I think this is great. Oh yeah, one that I forgot. Normally you could only do these turns upwards. You couldn't bank them. But now if we enable this cheat, this ride now finally also has banked sloped turns. Now do remember that the standard roller coaster, corkscrew roller coaster trains don't actually have sprites for these large banked curves. So it may look a little bit wonky as it passes through these and through some of the other inversions as well. But these loops, it should be able to handle them, and the large corkscrews as well. Now the hyper coaster has also gotten several of these elements. I can see a vertical loop here and a small half loop. And it looks like it can also do a corkscrew now, which you probably need different trains for the ride to actually be able to traverse these properly. And I believe the laydown coaster has only gotten these large diagonal curves. But yeah, it's definitely a good start for this ride. And I'm definitely always excited to see rides get new track pieces. And I'm pretty sure that Hypercoaster will probably get a few more of these track pieces as well. I'm pretty sure it should be able to handle these large vertical loops as well. Alright, the next change is that we got a new coaster type in the game, which is the LSM Launched Roller Coaster. So I'm just going to build part of it. So here you can see, well, now it has black track, but the track is actually the same as the Giga Coaster track. You will see some difference in the booster sprites and also in the brake sprites. Yeah, they look like what they would look like on a modern LSM Launch Coaster. So you can see these fins which extend from the track. Now there's another little something. So if we change the ride mode to powered launch, you can see it now also gets these launch fins here in the station, which would make sense if you're launching a coaster right from the station. Now, something else which this coaster type has is all the inversions that for the Giga Coaster were locked behind cheats. So you can build this. You can build all the inversions you want on this coaster to your heart's content. Now, for the trains for this coaster, we've also gotten a new train type in the game, which is the modern twister trains. And these just look like a modern Intamin coaster train. And these trains actually have sprites for all these new inversions. So it's nice that we once again get another coaster type which can actually handle all these inversions. I think this is a great addition to the game. Now, something which I should probably note is that the OpenRCT2 developers have actually asked permission from Intamin to use coasters in the game with the likeness of an Intamin train. And Intamin has actually given permission, so these trains are actually modeled after Intamin trains. So I think it's really nice from Intamin that they actually gave permission for us to use these vehicles in the game, which I think is awesome. Now, with this change, there's also been a change to the Giga Coaster coaster type. So the Giga Coaster coaster type is now mostly to emulate coasters like Expedition GeForce or Goliath in Walibi, Holland. And that also means you normally no longer have access to boosters on this coaster type. So if you want to make a coaster that can actually get launched and has boosters, you'll need to use the LSM Launch Coaster. And if you want to make a more traditional coaster with, for example, cable lift, not really sure how to build it anymore, cable lift hill, something like that, or just traditional lift hill, then you'll have to use the Giga Coaster coaster type. So now the Giga Coaster is once again more like how it was in the original Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and the LSM Launched Coaster type is when you want to add all these inversions, or if you want your coaster to be launched, and it's more akin to modern coaster types. Now, for the Giga Coaster, you can still access most of the elements you could previously access by enabling the cheat for enable all drawable track pieces. So if you build a Giga Coaster now, you can still get all these wacky inversions that you could previously. This when you play without cheats. The Giga Coaster is now a little bit more limited, and the LSM Launched Coaster, that's the new type, has all the elements you could ever wish for. Okay, the next change is mostly for people who don't play on a Windows computer. Basically the app image that was generated for Ubuntu 22.04 and Debian Bookworm, it didn't actually work properly on those systems, but with this improvement the game should now once again properly run on those operating systems. Alright, the next change concerns one of the newer track pieces. The game has gotten some newer diagonal track pieces some time ago. And basically, if a coaster didn't have the proper sprites for those pieces, it wouldn't actually use the proper sprite. As you may be able to see here, these vehicles are banked, and this vehicle here in the middle on this particular track piece would use the wrong sprite. So that now has been fixed, and this vehicle should now also be banked more properly. Okay, several things have been fixed, which would normally crash the game. There's quite a few of those in the list, so I'll just quickly go over all of them. Now, first one is crash when drawing space rings with an invalid ride entry. I assume that means that the ride type of a space rings have been changed, and then the game would have trouble drawing it and then would crash. Not exactly sure if that's what actually happened, but it should now no longer crash the game. Now, there was also a crash when drawing a loading screen with an outdated G2. G2.dat is the file which contains most of the graphics for the game. And sometimes if you update the game while the game is still running in the background, sometimes this file would not be updated properly. But now the game should no longer crash if you're trying to open the game and it's outdated. Now, it's also a crash when passing through a door from an invalid wall type. Basically, in the game, you have two types of doors. You have the doors which are more like a regular door, which flap open and closed. And you have the portcullis doors, the ones from the castle set. And yeah, for some reason, there could also be doors of an undefined type, and then the game would crash. But now there's a proper exception for those, if I understood the change log correctly. Now, there was also a crash when firing a staff member, but that looks like they also fixed it. So now you can fire your staff members to your heart's content. Now, and finally, there's two crashes here. A crash when loading a save game when the construction window is still open, and a crash when loading a new game when the construction window is still open. Yeah, those situations should no longer crash the game. Okay, there was a little bug in the game where if you zoomed the view using the keyboard, the view would actually move off center. But I've now set the hotkeys for zooming in and out to the Q and the A key. You can change any hotkeys yourself, by the way, in the options menu. But yeah, if I zoom out now, the view will stay in the center, as you can see. Alright, for the next change, in the previous release, these wooden flat to steep pieces have been added to the game. Lots of people really enjoyed them, so that's nice to see. But something which happened when they were drawn is that their railings would actually be drawn over a track piece that's in front of them. So that now has been changed. So as you can see, the railing no longer draws in front. There is, however, still a little glitch with the support piece, but it says it's related to prepending. I'm not sure what that means, but it says it also happens with vanilla pieces that use it. So it sounds like something that's an original bug in the game. Alright, for the next change, I zoomed in quite far on this one. Here you can see the money graph of a park. The park doesn't seem to be doing very well. But yeah, on the places where the line transitions from horizontal to more vertical, the line is actually quite thick, and the developers called it fuzzy. Now, this has actually been changed, so here we can see a new graph, and now even in those transition points, the line is now very sharp, just like it is everywhere else in the graph. Now, something which was changed in one of the last OpenRCT2 releases was that RCT Tycoon Classic scenarios could now also be loaded in OpenRCT2. And they use a different file extension than normal RCT Tycoon 2 or OpenRCT2 scenarios. But yeah, somehow these scenarios were no longer visible in OpenRCT2, even if you had put them into your scenario folder. But that has now been fixed, so those scenarios should now pop up in your scenario list once again, if you have them in your scenario folder. Okay, for the next change, well, there's a command that you can use in-game. So if I bring up the in-game console, then here you could type remove unused objects. Basically what this command does is it normally in the object selection you can select all the objects that you want to use in your game. But if you have custom objects, well, they increase the file size quite a lot if you have a lot of them. So basically, if at the end you want to clean that up and make the file size smaller, you can run this command and it automatically removes all the objects from the list that you didn't actually use in the park. So it's probably a good thing to do when you have finished a park. Well, an unintended side effect of this was basically some time ago, the names of guests have now also been turned into an object. For example, the normal list of guest names, it's just a long big list of English names. And the reason for making that an object is, for example, if you want your guest names to be Spanish, for example, you could just load an object which only has Spanish names in it. So then all the guests who are running around in your park get Spanish names. Now, what this command actually did was also remove the peep guest object from the list. So no guest name object would be selected, and what you would end up with was all these guests that have blank names, as you can see over here. That has now been fixed, so when you now run the command, the guest name object should stay selected, so your guests won't end up with blank names if you use the command. Now, something else which could happen is I'm in the scenario editor here. Here we have the map generator, and something which could happen here is that you could put numbers in here which were out of range, and maps could be generated that were actually bigger than what the game could handle. But it has now once again been restricted to 999 by 999. Okay, and finally for the limb launch roller coaster, if you build two of these medium half loops right after each other, they would actually clip into each other, and there would be some graphical glitches here. But that now has been resolved, so this loop should always draw in front of the second loop. Alright, those were most of the changes that have been done in this release version. You can find all the changes, the whole changelog, in the link that I will leave in the video description. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, it was useful for you, please leave a like, it would really help out my channel. And I would love to hear in the comments what you think of this release version. And if you want to see more videos like these, you can always subscribe to my channel. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.